Okay, so once again, thinking about data sets, we're going to be looking at how can we choose a sample. So if you open up the Excel file called dates, we're going to be looking at how can we choose different types of samples from this Excel file. Along the bottom, we have tabs for simple random, systematic, and stratified. So the dates in question go all the way from May through to October. We can see how many Mondays, Wednesdays, etc. we have, and we can see which months are represented. As we choose each of our random samples, we'll see how those frequencies or the distribution of days and months change accordingly. One way that we can pick a simple random sample is to apply a random number to each of the dates that we're working with. So if you just type equals rand, R-A-N-D, open bracket, close bracket, that will assign a random number to each of those days. If you see, I double clicked on the little box in the bottom right hand corner of the cell, and that produced random numbers all the way through the data set. Now I'm going to add on some filters. Every time that I do something, if I press enter, if I sort, if I organize, the random numbers are going to regenerate. So here I've arranged those random numbers from smallest to biggest. It doesn't look like that anymore because they've reset themselves. But I had them in order, they were randomized, and now these first 30 are going to produce my sample. So I've selected the first 30 of them, and I can just paste them in here as my sample. Let's get some headings as well. And there's my simple random sample of 30. This is a technique that's quite unique to this spreadsheet software, Excel. You would have to do something slightly different, which we'll go through if you were doing it outside of a computer. In your exam, you're likely to be asked, if asked, to do it a standard way, which isn't quite what we've done just here. All right, so that's my random sample. Let's have a quick look at the spread of days. So there's some Mondays, some Tuesdays, Fridays are very well represented. Look at the months. Randomly, October has 9 days included, while July only has 3. Let's look at the seasons. So May to August, September to October, 18 versus 12. Your numbers will come out different, but have a quick look through and just see how representative your sample actually ends up being. Okay, so how else could we have picked that random sample? Well, this time around, I've given each of these days a number from 1 all the way through to 184. These have been assigned, so I've numbered my list, which you're probably familiar with, and I want to pick some random numbers. So I'm going to go to this useful website, random.org, and this is what the website should look like, random.org. There's lots of random things we can pick from here. I'm going to go to numbers and integers, and I want to pick a set of random integers. Is that I realize I may well get repeats, which is why I was going to pick 40 numbers. But this website has thought of that. In your exam, you'd have to make mention of what you would do if a number came up twice. What we would do is we would ignore it and we'll pick another number. But for us, we'll actually go to the sequences. So we're going to go to the sequence generator, where there shouldn't actually be any repeated values. So we'll go ahead and set these sequence boundaries. I'm going to go from 1 all the way up to 185. I'm just going to choose a few columns. Let's put them into 5 columns altogether. And let's get that sequence. All right, so here are all of the numbers from 1 to 185 randomly put into a particular order. And if I pick the first 30 of these, they will represent my sample. Okay, let's just get them both on the screen at the same time. All right, so as I go through each of those numbers, I'm just going to highlight which of these dates it represents or corresponds with. So scrolling through, we'll start with 130, then we'll go up to 37, 7, etc. Okay, I'll just speed up this bit for us. I'm sure you get the idea. Okay, so here we have 26, followed by 165. All right, and next it's 185. All right, obviously, as we go down, there is no 185. So we've got a number that was not represented in our data set. I have to ignore that number 185. This will happen sometimes when you're on your calculator. You might get a random number that isn't included in the data set that you're working with. We just need to ignore that, which means be careful here that the first 30 numbers are not going to be the sample. The first 30 numbers won't immediately be the sample. It must be the first 30 valid numbers, which excludes numbers outside of the applicable range and excludes repetitions of the same number. So two things to be really careful for and to mention in the exam when you're asked to describe how you select a sample. Okay, and we'll speed through the rest of this. And that will be our sample of 30. So if you can see that I just quickly went to a filter, I filtered it by color, and now I can just select all of the ones that have been highlighted. I can paste those in as my sample. And there we go. So two ways for us to select that simple random sample. Once again, just take into account, well, just have a look at the distribution of the days, the months, and the seasons.